evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever part of the world you're in. Welcome to the community of We with Dr. B. I'm so glad that you are here with me. Today's segment is going to really cover focus on our what I call frontline workers right now. I keep telling you, I think I mentioned in my first video about the COVID-19 and how it is affecting every single person in some shape, form, or fashion. And I think it's important that today's segment and next couple of segments, as a matter of fact, will be focused on the mental health workers, the medical workers, human service professionals, social workers, all of those that are in the front line helping out in some shape, form, or fashion in the medical aspect, in the psychological aspect field. Of course, that's one of the hats that I wear as a licensed counselor, that we are out here, we're working with everyone, and there's a conglomerate of emotions that are going on. And again, those that are in the hospitals that are effortlessly working day in and day out, hour after hour, I thank you. I thank you for giving of yourself. I thank you for serving in the manner in which you are. I can't even imagine being in the hospitals and being exposed to the things that you guys are doing on a daily basis, from a second to second basis. It's a lot. It's a lot for anyone to deal with, but yet you're doing it day in and day out. And I want to just dedicate this segment to you all, this show to you all. And just saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. You know, in thinking about today's show, I wanted to begin to look at one of the things that all of us are working with, one of the things that all of us deal with on a day-to-day basis in some shape, in some form, and in some fashion, and that is grief. Grief comes in so many ways, and everyone experiences grief in different ways. However, what's universal that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and David Kessler thought about initially the 5 stages of grief, and then later on they added 2 more. So it went from 5 to 7 stages of grief. And one of the important things that I think that I need to take my time, especially with everything that everyone is experiencing, especially our frontline workers in the medical aspect and the psychological aspect, that these emotions that we experience are real. What you're seeing from day to day is real. And what do you do with all of those emotions? What do you do with all of those feelings that are coming up, but yet we are required to continue to carry out our work, to continue to provide the best service, to begin to serve, to continue to serve those that may be on their last breath, but yet you're being pulled in so many ways, and your emotions are right there because we're real. We're human. And we feel real emotions, but yet, again, we are expected to carry out a duty and to compartmentalize and to be able to see, to focus, to be clear on what it is that we're saying, that we're doing, and how we do it. How do we do that? How do you do that? And I want you all to know that in this community with Dr. B, that with me, I'm speaking as in third person, but myself, that we are real about where we are. We are real about what we're feeling. Be present in the emotions that we're feeling. And just to go back to the 7 stages of grief, it is important to identify what they are. I'm just going to name them. I want to make sure that I name them in the manner in which they are so I can get them correct and I do not misquote what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and what David Kessler identified as. The 7 stages that have been identified are shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and then finally acceptance. For today's show, I want to focus on shock. And shock is identified as experiencing a form of being paralyzed. It's experiencing a form of emotionless. But I want to add to that, because in that first initial shock, the paralysis that comes over any one of us with grief is that it's like a certain couple of seconds of time where there's no emotion, but then the flood of emotion immediately follows that. I want to begin to think about, I want you all to begin to think about, what do you feel in that moment? For those medical professionals, psychological professionals, and all of us that are in the front line helping, we are expected to carry out duties. We are expected to carry them out well in the face of this pandemic. We are expected to be able to provide information, to do what is called or identified as a handoff to the next person that's coming on to the next shift, the correct, precise information for that patient, that client, so that they can continue to get the greatest care that's possible during the time that they're experiencing this. And so think about this. You are there to provide a great service. You have all of these patients that are coming in by the hundreds. And you're seeing individuals that are breathing their last breath. You're seeing individuals that are struggling and suffering and going through this, but yet they cannot have their family members right with them because of the COVID-19 and what it does and how it's spread. And that you have to make a decision, and going along with all the guidelines that are set in every state with social distancing, making sure that you are protected while you're providing these services. And again, these emotions, you're feeling these emotions, they're real. I had a conversation with an RN a couple of days ago, and it was so moving. I asked her, I said, how are you holding up? How are you handling the COVID-19 with the influx of patients that are coming in? And she was just busily going through her day, but when I asked her that question, I just kind of watched her for a time with her moving, going and doing it. So I asked her that, and she stopped, and she said, Dr. B, I have to say, this is something like no other that any of us have ever seen or experienced. She said there's so many people that are coming in all at the same time, suffering in various stages. And she said, and they're dying by the seconds. And she said, we're doing the best that we can with what we have. And she said, there's no room, but we're trying to make room where there's no room. And she says, and the visions that I'm seeing, I cannot forget those. She said, we have to make decisions to let the family members know you cannot come be with your family member in their last hour. You can't, or last seconds of their life because of this COVID-19. She said, the emotions that flood me when I have to walk down that hallway to let the family members know your loved one is now gone. She said, and the emotions that flood and what we experience, she said, is something that I cannot shake. She said, but yet I'm expected to provide a service that I'm called to, that I am passionate about, that I love. And she said, but I go home and I am in a state of shock. She said, I go home. She said, my drive home is quiet because I'm trying to figure out how to process what I just experienced for that day. And knowing that I have to come back for another 12 hours to experience this again. She said, it's a lot. She said, sometimes I want to take these emotions that I'm feeling and I want to put them to the side. And she said, but it just floods my soul to see this, to experience this on a day-to-day basis. She said, I love to serve. I'm called to serve in the place as an RN. She said, and she said, our team, we're working effortlessly, and we're working, so to the point where we're tired, but we keep pushing because our patients are in need. She said it's a lot. And she said, I don't know when this is going to end. She said, but we have to continue moving forward. She said, it's so much. And she said, how are we going to be okay after this? She said, this is basically like our new normal. And she said, I don't even see this stopping anytime soon. And so I listened to her and I watched the flood of emotions that just came out of her. And she said that that was the first time that she really allowed herself to begin to allow the emotions to come up and come out. She said because she kept packing them in and was focused on, serving those that are in such need. And she said it tears my heart apart. And I try my best to push down what I am seeing and what I'm feeling. And she said, so that I can stay focused. And she said, but sometimes, a lot of times, it's very hard. And she said, and I'm doing my best. We all are doing our best. She said, it is, again, something that I have never, any of us have ever seen before. And the tears just ran down her cheeks. And I told her it was okay to feel these emotions because we're human. And these emotions that we feel are real. It's not okay to push them aside and act as if they don't exist. Because if you're expected not to feel, which is a part of who we are as a people, that's ludicrous for anyone to expect that out of anyone. But unfortunately, it happens. It happens. And I want you all to know that our what I call frontline workers, thank you again for going into the medical hospitals and facilities and providing these services to so many that are in need. Just watching some of the segments that are on the television and in the news to see how they're having to set up morgues for those that have transitioned and gone on due to this COVID-19. Sometimes I sit there in utter shock like, my God, be with them, keep them, guide them, protect them, give them the strength that they need in experiencing this and having to go into the hospitals day in and day out. Give them the surge of energy that they need to work with individuals and give them the peace that they need to process these feelings. And that's why that's why I felt it was so important that this segment is specifically dedicated, not just this one, but the next few ones, because it's important that I spend each time for the next couple of segments and talking about the stages of grief. The stage, like I said, the number one is shock. The shock of seeing what is happening. The shock of, oh my God, look at this. These are lives that are transitioning by the second because of how aggressive that they're saying that this virus is attacking the human body. That's a lot. That is a lot. And I would never ask you to, again, not be present in what you feel. Yes, not just the medical workers, the psychological, mental health counselors, social workers, all of those that fall under the category in the helping professional field or the human services field. We're serving humans. That we get to a point Dr. Wayne Dyer said it best. He said, change occurs when the way that we look at it, that change occurs when we understand that it's present, that is real, that this is our new normal right now, and we become okay with that. When we change our paradigm and our minds and it shifts to, okay, I am going to see a lot of people coming in to be serviced in these hospitals. I am going to experience a lot of death walking in. Please don't misunderstand me. I would never ask you to be okay and accept what's happening right now, but this is what is happening. And the moment that we began to look at this as, okay, this is happening, we accept what's happening, the shock that it is occurring, we understand that we're going to feel that, because who can ever get comfortable with seeing all of these individuals coming in emergency or coming in that's focused on this virus that's happening, aggressively attacking their bodies? Who can really get used to this? But the change will happen for us, for the medical workers that are in these hospitals day in and day out. The change will happen when we get to the point, like Dr. Wayne Dyer said, change occurs when we understand and know that this is going to happen. And the way that we're looking at it is not something that's crazy. This is what's happening right now. And we accept how it's happening. It begins to shift and it begins to change. And in that paradigm shift and the change in the way that we're looking at it, we get a sense of peace right in that place. And in that peace, it should shift to, okay, change happens when the way that I'm looking at this is not so much as a shock, but to know that this is going to happen when I go into work. To know that this is what's going to be expected of me when I go into work. It's going to be different levels, different people. The way that they experience is going to be different. But the overarching thing, this is going to happen. And our paradigms, our minds, our means, it shifts to the acceptance that this is the change. And in that change, it's again when our minds, our paradigms, our means, our thoughts, all of that, we begin to look at it differently. And in that different space is where that peace will come in. And it's almost like a realigning of the position that you're carrying out and that you're serving so well. Because you know this is the change. This is what is our new normal. And we began to move forward in a different space in the positions that are being provided to those many patients that are there that are in such need. And you begin to have more of a focus. Again, not dismissing your emotions because they're real. But in that shift, in the changing of the way that you're looking at it, that's when that thing changes. In that peace, in that space. Because it helps you, again, to have that paradigm shift. And you begin to say and look and move in a way that your servanthood goes to another level. But in that next level, it's saturated with peace. And then you come together with what your emotions are. Tears may happen, that's okay. But you have such a peace because you're allowing your human part and to come together with your professional part in your servanthood for those that are in need. Now, I'm not saying that it was never there, but it goes to another level. Change occurs when the way that you're looking at things, it changes. The acceptance, the shock of it all. You understand that, okay, this is what it is. However, I'm going to take that shock in my stage of experiencing this grief and what's happening in our world today. And I am going to allow this space of peace to take over and a level of growth that will happen right in that space. So if I'm unable to hold that person's hand in that last moment of their life, because I'm being called in so many other directions to care for so many others, right in that second, I can at least offer some sense of peace to that individual right as they're transitioning on due to this COVID-19. And you're giving them a sense of peace right as they're transitioning out. How amazing is that? It doesn't have to be a 5-minute talk. It could be something as simple as peace. It's okay. Because in what's happening, you may only have that little bit amount of time to say that. Again, come together as a community in your medical teams. Come together as a community to support one another, to be there, to lean on one another in these times. It's so necessary. We need you guys to stand strong. But we also need you all to make sure that you maintain self-care in going through all of this. Talk about the emotions. Do not act as though they don't exist. Because this is right now our new normal. And we need you to be okay. I'm so glad that you chose to join me today and to talk about this. Put your comments down below because I want to hear from you. I care. I'm here. We're here. We are all in this together. Let's talk about, how you will get through this. Even more so than what I've talked about today, because it starts with one step at a time, and then you take the next step. Don't try to do it all at once. It won't work. Take it one step at a time. Remember, change occurs when the way that you're looking at it, it changes. And in that paradigm shift of the way that you're looking at it, when it changes from the crisis of it to, okay, this is what's going to happen. And I'm ready for it. This is going to happen. And I want to be able to provide the best that I can for each person. And in that service it will be saturated with peace. Talk about what you feel when you're going through this. again, come together as a community with the medical teams that you all are a part of. For those of us that are licensed counselors, social workers, and all of that goes under the umbrella of human services in the psychological aspect, let us all come together. Let us begin to talk about the emotions that we may feel or that our clients are experiencing. Not talking about individual client cases, that's not what I'm saying, because we definitely don't ever want to violate any type of confidentiality or anything like that. But let's generalize the conversations about the flood of emotions that we all are experiencing in some way and how it is affecting us. Providing suggestions on that, how we can provide even better services. Helping everyone to come to a place, again, like you will hear me from segment to segment, to get to a place of peace and what that looks like for you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so important that we are here for one another. It's so important that we stand together as a community of we and lock arms, lock resources, come together, be a support, especially in these times. Again, medical professionals that are going out there into the hospitals, that are frontline working with patients that are experiencing this, you have to shield your eyes, your nose, the face mask, and all of the gear that you have to do every single day. Please be present in what you are experiencing. And again, in talking about the first stage of grief is shock, begin to look at this first stage with a new set of eyes, basically. Look at it in a way where, again, like I keep going back to Dr. Wayne Dyer, change occurs when the way that we look at things change. When we change the way that we look at this, change will occur within us. And therein lies that change, the paradigm shift in our minds, in our thoughts, in our processes, in our meanings, is when that place of peace will occur. And in that place of peace, it'll heighten our awareness. It will heighten how we do it and what we do and how we serve. Constantly continue to talk about what you feel. You can do it definitely here in the community. And when I come on again, I'll read some comments that I've gotten. Please like and subscribe so that you'll know when I'm posting the next video. And I'm going to continue to go through these different stages of grief, because this is what all of us are experiencing in some shape, form, or fashion. To have close friends, have relatives that have experienced this coronavirus is like no other. And to get the news that this has happened, it pulls at your emotions. God bless you all that are out there working effortlessly and providing such amazing service. You guys will continue to be in my prayers, our prayers, because it's necessary. Again, we are all in this together. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next segment of the Community of We with Dr. B. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Take care.